That was the call of the Rufous Hummingbird. The Rufous Hummingbird was discovered in June of 1778 on Captain James Cook's third voyage of discovery, while the two ships of the expedition were anchored at Nootka Sound in what is now British Columbia, Canada. Much like the varied thrush of the last video. But unlike the varied thrush, the Rufous Hummingbird was brought directly to the men of the expedition by the native Nuu-chah-nulth people. The Moachot children of the Nuu-chah-nulth often captured Rufous Hummingbirds and kept them as pets, or their feathered skins were sewn onto clothing. The naturalists aboard the ships, William Anderson and William Wade Ellis, were surprised to find a hummingbird so far north, as hummingbirds had until then been considered tropical birds. The natives traded the explorers water, fish, wood, fur, and these little hummingbirds for iron and copper. The Nuu-chah-nulth people had a strict concept of private property and wouldn't allow the explorers to collect timber to repair their ships or even cut grass for their livestock without payment. Incidentally, this eventually allowed the Moachot tribe that traded with the expedition to amass great wealth after becoming the main hub for the fur trade with Europeans in that area. But back to the hummingbirds. The Nuu-chah-nulth children would collect the hummingbirds by slicking flowers they were known to feed from with snail mucus to glue the little birds in place for just long enough to nab them. The expedition's naturalists obtained a few of these pet Rufous hummingbirds with long pieces of human hair tied to their legs as leashes, and were able to observe their fiery orange and iridescent feathers up close as they darted around lightning fast on their tethers. Unfortunately, these little creatures need to feed constantly to support the intense exertion of the no less than 50 beats per second of their wings, and being trapped in place by a hair doesn't allow them to do that, and they sadly don't live long. If you'd like to spot these tiny copper birds flying freely, it may be as easy as hanging a sugar water feeder in your yard or planting tubular flowers for them to drink from. The males are easy enough to distinguish with their orange coloration, but the females may be confused for other hummingbirds as they are green instead. If Rufous hummingbirds don't visit your neighborhood, you may find them at the edge of the woods flying from flower to flower. What part of North America you can find them in depends upon the time of year. The Rufous hummingbird is famous for its incredible up to 4,000-mile yearly migration. This is one of the longest migrations relative to body size of any bird in the world. From July to September, they travel the high elevations of the Rocky Mountains, drinking from the late blooming flowers of the alpine meadows and plucking tiny insects from the air. October to January, you'll find them in central Mexico and the U.S. Gulf Coast, flitting through pine oak woods, searching for patches of winter flowers to claim as their temporary territory. They spend hours a day perched high up on a branch, scanning their land for intruders. And they don't just consider other hummingbirds a threat. They'll chase away large insects, birds larger than themselves, and even squirrels by dive bombing them. From February to April, they follow the Pacific coast's early blooming flowers to their breeding ground. And May to July, they settle into the Pacific Northwest for breeding. This choice of breeding territory, as far north as southeastern Alaska, is unusual for hummingbirds and is actually the northernmost breeding ground of any hummingbird species. In his chosen breeding area, the male Rufous hummingbird performs aggressive aerial displays of steep dives and quick back-and-forth movements where his wings buzz with a rapid up to 200 beats per second. The female stays perched on a branch to watch. There is no pair bonding between these birds. Males mate with any willing female in their chosen territory, and don't participate in nest building or raising of the young. The females build their nests 30 feet high in a tree, hidden amongst the leaves and lichen, often in clusters of many other nests belonging to other females. Up to 20 nests all built together within a few yards of each other. The female Rufous hummingbirds collect plant down from dandelions, thistles, milkweed, and cottonwood to form their nests, and stick it together with spider silk to allow stretch for the growing baby birds. The outside of the nest is camouflaged with lichen, moss, and bark to blend into the branch it sits on. The finished nests are just 1.5 to 2 inches across. The tiny white eggs are only half an inch long, and each nest will hold 2 to 3 eggs when the female is done laying. Since the females nest alone, they operate on a strict, efficient schedule to ensure their high caloric demands can still be met while incubating the eggs and feeding the young. While the males loudly and aggressively chase competitors away from their food sources, the females take the opposite approach and use stealth tactics to slip between different areas of feeding in a half-mile radius of their nests. In order to keep track of all the food sources within a given area, the Rufous hummingbird has a memory and navigation center of the brain, the hippocampus, 5 times larger than other songbirds relative to brain volume. And they not only remember the locations of their food, but the time it takes for each flower to replenish its nectar. This way, these extreme energy-burning birds don't waste time and calories on empty flowers. They will do this with the sugar water feeders you leave out as well, remembering exactly when you refill them. So you can do them a favor in always being consistent with the tending of the feeders. They will remember where you hang the feeders even the next year. So if you move one, you may see one of these birds hovering in the area the feeder used to be, searching for it. Thank you for watching. You can find the previous video in this series on birds of the Pacific temperate rainforests on the varied thrush in the description below. It also goes into a bit more detail about the third voyage of discovery that the Rufous hummingbird and the varied thrush were discovered on. I very much appreciate your support, and if you enjoyed this video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, or sharing to help this channel grow. See you next time.